Marshall and Margaret Hoover now weigh in on the madness. Margaret Hoover, what do you think about a government shutdown? I mean, we basically think that, look, the tax thing, for all of its warts and blemishes, still should go through just because it's affecting so many hundreds and thousands of business out there. But in terms of the spending bill, that's where you got to draw the line.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I would take issue with just one part of your rant in the beginning. And that's that the Republicans did lose the fight in the mid-90s when we had the government shutdown. The reason we lost the fight, you say we lost the fight in the liberal media, but the problem is whoever wins in the liberal media wins the fight, because that's who communicated to.
I don't think anymore. Back then, remember, back in the mid-90s, we did not have the internet. We did not have the variety of news sources that you have, including Fox News, including Fox Business, which presents the other side better. You don't have the monopoly of the information that the liberal media used to have.
It successfully demonized and polarized Newt Gingrich to the extent that he will probably not get elected president, largely because of that episode.
Yeah, but you're not addressing my point. This was in the mid-90s when we didn't have exposure to the kind of media we have now and things like the Tea Party.
And the difference between, okay, I take your point. The difference between these two shutdowns, this shutdown, what are we getting out of it? We're not fighting any. This isn't a shutdown over something principled that we really have on the table. This is not Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton wrestling, arm wrestling. This should just be simply a point of principle. By the way, we have to
bring up a point of order here, Leslie, which is that there is a mistake in history in believing that it was Newt Gingrich who shut down the government. It was actually Bill Clinton who shut down the government. Bill Clinton was the one who vetoed the bills presented to him by Newt Gingrich, and in vetoing those bills, the government shut down.
But it actually was a good move, David, as you know, and obviously history in hindsight is 2020 like anything else. I think this is and I know this is a very different time. We can get onto the whole liberal media later, being that as a progressive talk show host, there are less than 100 progressive talk stations and more than 400 conservative talk stations. But I'm doing fine, though,
good,
David.
And we're appreciating that.
I'm glad. But the bottom line here is the American people, left or right, the American people, the majority of which are middle and lower income, if they are in need of a tax break, everyone is, in a bad economy or an extension in unemployment benefits, should not be, using the president's terms, held hostage, and I'm going to say by politics on both sides of the aisle now. When it comes to spending in the Senate, Republicans wrote in a lot of spending, including Mitch McConnell, who said, oh, you can take out my $4 million for my state of Kentucky, but if you notice, nobody removed that.
Well, and you're just going, Leslie, you're just going for the pikers. We've been focusing on Chuck Grassley's edition of the ethanol subsidies, which come up to about $5 billion, and that's in the tax bill. That's not even in the spending bill. So, I mean, there's tremendous blame to go around here, Margaret Hoover, of Democrats and Republicans complicating this procedure to such a messy point that we think somehow you got to take a principled position. And calling for a government shutdown, or at least saying we're not going to pass this spending bill until they straighten it out, even if government does shut down, is a position somebody's got to take.
I think the principled position is to vote no on it. The principled position is to call the Congress and say, tell Mitch McConnell, tell the Republicans to get their earmarks out of that bill. Vote no on the spending bill.
And if the government shuts down midnight on Saturday, so be it.
I don't know. I think that hurts the American people. I think the American people are very angry.
If you vote no, you have to be willing to go the distance.
We elect these people to get their work done. We elect these people to get bills passed.
We don't elect them to spend our money helter-skelter the way they have done in this omnibus spending bill.
At the end of the day, I don't think it hurts the Republicans this go-around, because a whole new class is coming in January, and they're not going to be shutting down the government at the end.
Leslie, I'm surprised. You seem a little more sympathetic to my position than Margaret Hoover does.
Well, actually, no, because I agree with Margaret that we cannot have the American people punished for the sake of politics. Remember, some of these politicians aren't coming back in January, David, so, you know, they don't have anything to lose. And also, remember, the new breed, the new Congress that comes in, especially in the House, the Tea Party candidates, Republicans, the same thing, in my opinion. But in January, they may just turn this whole thing around and throw it out.
What happened? Wait a minute. You say Americans would get punished if we put this on the table. The fact that it is more important to get a reasonable spending bill than it is to keep the government functioning. Margaret Hoover, what happened as a result of the government shutdown in the mid-90s? We began to see all kinds of compromises between Bill Clinton and a Republican Congress that led to less spending and eventually a balanced budget. Yes, it led to Bill Clinton's reelection, But hey, if you have a good economy as a result of a split government, what's wrong with that?
Absolutely nothing. And here's the thing. If you shut the government down now, what are we getting for it? It's not like we actually have an arm wrestling fight and we're fighting an ideological battle with Democrats that we're going to continue fighting with. The Democrats are leaving. They're going home. They're not coming back. Republicans are going to run the Congress. So what do we get for shutting down? I mean, when we have these big principled fights to shut down the government, sure, it can be a point of principle, but who's suffering and for what, and what are we getting out of it? You use these things for leverage.
The one thing that I do not want to happen is to punish the producers in this country, particularly the small and mid-sized companies who are holding their plans in abeyance, waiting for some kind of solution to the tax battle. That's where I'm willing to give a little, but on spending, I'm not. I'll give you the final word. Go ahead, Leslie.
Again, bottom line, this is about not punishing the American people. Don't stick it to the American people at Christmas and say, hey, Merry Christmas, we're going to shut down the government, you're not going to get your benefits, you're not going to be able to pay your bills, more people go into foreclosure. This is a lose-lose situation for the American people.
All right.
And
I don't know how many people actually went into foreclosure as a result of the shutdown in the mid-90s. We've done a little bit of research. We do know that the economy was booming as a result of the agreements, the various agreements that they worked out because of that government shutdown, because there was so much pressure to do a compromise. We ended up with a booming economy, which is the main reason, by the way, that Bill Clinton won the election, because the economy was so good under that split government and with those compromises. Guys, we got to leave it at that. We'll see more of you in just a moment. Coming up on deck.